Thank you very much for gathering this morning, and thank you, Jeremy, for coming in order to ensure that everyone is able to hear messages over the next wee while. I'd like to begin just by expressing the sense of shock that we all feel as a city and as a nation, and indeed across the world. There have been expressions of love and sympathy and support for the people of Christchurch, and particularly for the communities that have been on the receiving end of this attack. Our hearts go out to all the victims, their families, and of course everyone else who has been affected. And at the same time, we acknowledge the extraordinary bravery and courage of our police, our first responders, and all those that are now supporting the victims of this attack. Today, our focus is very much on providing practical support to the families. There is a lot for them to be going through, and our hearts are with them, but our practical support needs to turn to them as well. And then there is the wider community of Christchurch. We've all been affected. Everyone has been touched in some way, shape or form. And the messages that I've had overnight have been a desire to come together as a community and to reach out and offer solidarity to our community, our Muslim community, a part of our community. We are a very diverse city in Christchurch. We have welcomed new people into our city. We are talking about people in the city who have lived here for years and years and years. They are our friends, they are our neighbours. We embrace them at this time, and I know that I speak for all of the people in Christchurch when I say how much we want to come together to support them. So we want to work together with those communities to ensure that we do this appropriately and in support, and give them the time and the space that they need to deal with the immediate issues at hand. We still have injured people in the hospital. So we will find a time and a place for us to come together and to share that sense of grief and loss, but also to share that sense of love, compassion and support that we feel for these communities. The next thing is that people have said that they want to lay floral tributes or other tributes in memory and in respect of those who have died. So we have made available the Botanic Garden wall along Rolleston Ave opposite the Arts Centre. The reason we chose that place is because it's close to the hospital, very close to the hospital, and so there is a direct connection with the people whose lives have been lost. And we know that the police still have cordons on the two mosques, and we do want to ask people to stay away from those places. We will ensure that those tributes are made available to the community at an appropriate time. The next thing that has come through is a strong desire also to contribute money. There are people who are offering financial support that want to help out. I know that Victim Support have set up an immediate helpline fund for supporting the family members, the victims of this terrible attack. And the Christchurch Foundation, which has been recently established, will also set up a fund, because it won't just be for the immediate aftermath of what we've experienced in the city, but it will be about rebuilding communities, rebuilding what has been lost, and ensuring that the communities are able to be well supported into the future. And that will be announced by the Christchurch Foundation this morning. And all of the flags are flying at half-mast on our council-owned buildings today and until further notice. This is an expression of our civic support for the communities and the loss that have been experienced. And many events at the weekend have been cancelled as well, Some of them will be known to you already. The cricket test at the Hagley Oval between New Zealand and Bangladesh, which I think is a powerful statement of the support from both sides of the sporting fraternity that were gathered here in the city for an important game, to, out of respect, not play that game today. The Bryan Adams concert will not proceed either, and all sport at Hagley Park is cancelled until further notice. Thank you.
You talked about practical support. Could you go into more detail about that?
Well, sadly, because of the numbers of people who have been killed, there will have to be a large number of funerals. There are very specific requirements in terms of Muslim funerals, and the council is working very closely with the communities to ensure that there are proper places available for preparation and for appropriate graves to be dug. They are being dug today.
How shocked are you that this happened in your city?
Sorry?
How shocked are you that this happened in your city?
I'm very shocked that it has happened here, but I'm shocked that it's happened in New Zealand. If this had happened in any other city in this country, I would be equally shocked. And I think the reason that we have been targeted, and this was, as I understand it, a deliberate decision to target our city and our country, was because we are a safe city and a safe country, and that was the message. So in my response to the choice of Christchurch by this terrorist individual who chooses to terrorise our city, it is an act of cowardice that he has performed. It is something that will... I guess there are no words to describe the revulsion that I feel for the propaganda that he wanted to bring with this, and I will not give voice to that propaganda. His was the voice of hate, and the only way that communities can respond to the voice of hate is to come together in love, compassion and kindness.
Are you concerned about potential extremist movements in Christchurch?
I haven't been so concerned at all. I've obviously only been the Mayor of Christchurch for the last 5.5 years, and prior to that, though, I was a Member of Parliament for over 20 years, and this sort of extremism is not something that we've seen here. But he is not from here. He came here with hate in his heart and intention to kill in his mind. So he did not develop his hatred here. He came here to perform this act of terrorism.
Have you spoken to the Mayor of Dunedin?
No, I haven't spoken to the Mayor of Dunedin. I've heard this morning that on the radio that there is an interest in a property in Dunedin. I've spoken to the Prime Minister. I've spoken to the Minister of Police. I've spoken to the Minister of Civil Defence. So I certainly have reached out. I've received messages from almost every mayor in the city, and actually a number of mayors from around the world have contacted me as well to share their sense of horror and compassion for our city.
This was a very well-planned and coordinated attack, wasn't it? Involved improvised explosive devices in 2 cars that we know of.
I heard the Commissioner of Police correct that statement last night. There were 2 devices in 1 car,
Right.
is what he said.
And this was planned over, we're hearing, maybe a number of years.
Yes.
Do you think that the intelligence services have dropped the ball in not picking us up? Apparently none of these people were on the radar.
Well, if they weren't on people's radar, and with my background having been a minister in a government, I know that there are people who are on the radar, as you describe it, and if these people weren't on the radar at all for any of the agencies, then that would suggest that they have really acted quite underground in that respect.
But even in accessing those explosive materials and accessing semi-automatic weapons, I mean, isn't that the sort of thing that our security services should
I think that these are questions that you do need to direct to the police, and the reason is that I'm only going to be providing you comment as an individual who has watched as much on the news as you have, and I don't think that I've got anything to add to the detailed expressions that the police will be able to give to that question.
Can you tell us more about your conversation with the Prime Minister and what her message was to you and how much support you've had from central government?
Well, the response from central government has been immediate. I mean, obviously from a police perspective, they immediately upgraded this to a national issue, and our security status has been upgraded as a country. And so the police have been handling this from their headquarters in Wellington. I have spoken to the Minister of Civil Defence, because obviously there was a question that I had in my mind, was this something that required the calling of a state of emergency? It didn't require that. The police had all of their resources at their command, and they did not require that in order to access anything else. So the message from the police was very much that they had received access to everything that they needed, and people were able to deploy very quickly at short notice. And from so I spoke to the Minister of Civil Defence, I spoke to the Minister of Police, and this was prior to them going into their briefing, and he called me back later on in order just to provide some reassurance that things were underway. And well, actually at that stage the tragic news of the 49 deaths had been just reported. And the Prime Minister I spoke to last night, we've been in touch again this morning. She's just gone into another briefing, and she'll be in touch after that.
So what did she say to you last night, this morning?
Well, both times she has expressed her utter shock and disbelief at what has occurred, but her absolute commitment to Christchurch, to all of the communities of Christchurch, and they are our communities. There is no difference. We make no distinction between whether you worship in a mosque or whether you worship in a church or a synagogue. We are all one together here, and that was very much the message that she had for us in Christchurch, that was the message that was coming from the whole of New Zealand.
And what's the message to the residents of Christchurch today and in the coming days in terms of moving about the city freely as they usually would?
Yeah, look, I haven't had any advice from police, so I'm just going to simply say respond to the advice of police. Police will be letting people know if there are issues that they would be concerned of. I'd ask people to stay away from the cordoned areas, and that's why we've made the tribute space available at the Botanic Gardens. And I think that reach out. We're not able to bring people together today as a city. What I think what I would recommend is that people reach out to their neighbours, that perhaps they organise a street get-together, just come together and reflect on what has happened and reflect on how important relationships in neighbourhoods are, because that was what saw us through our tragedy of the earthquakes, and that is what will see us through this tragedy.
You spoke earlier about burials and digging graves. Obviously, a lot of these victims will be Muslim, and they will be wanting to bury families will want to bury their loved ones within 24 hours. Have you been given any guidance as to whether families will be able to recover the bodies of their loved ones within 24 hours?
Look, and again, I think this is a question that you do need to direct to the police and to the health authorities. I have heard comments in the media this morning that there are also coroner's obligations that need to be met. This is, a man is being charged with murder in the court this morning, and I think that it's going to require a lot of sensitive working through with the whole community to understand the 24-hour requirement in the context of when the bodies can be released.
But you'll be advocating for that for the family?
when the bodies are released. I think that's the key. The 24 hours will run from when the bodies are released.
You sort of touched on it before, but in terms of any sort of memorial service or coming together of the wider community in Christchurch, is there anything on the radar at the moment for the council around that?
Well, we do need to talk to the community, and I'll be reaching out to them today. And obviously we've got a team of staff that are very connected to a wide range of ethnic communities. And, you know, we might talk about Muslim communities, but these may be Afghanis, they may be from Pakistan, they may be from different parts of Africa. You know, right across the world there'll be people who've been touched by this event here today.
Yeah. Have you been in touch with, I know there are Pakistani and Turkish nationals involved, have you been in touch with any of the consular officials?
Not at this stage, no. I have had a number of people reach out to me, as I've said, and you know, there will be community members that will want to make statements today, and I'm certainly working towards facilitating that in the best way that I can.
Is there anything else the council can do just in terms of that practical support for the families in those communities?
Well, I think that we have made some community facilities available to them. I mean, obviously they need to have a degree of privacy as well as their support, so I won't go into any details, but yes, we are working very, very closely with both the police and the local communities to provide whatever support we can.
The mosques are closed, but is there somewhere else that's been organised for people to pray?
I'm going to say that I understand that there are facilities going to be made available to the community directly.
And that will obviously be kept sort of private for obvious reasons.
The eyes of the media around the world are on Christchurch. So what message might you have to people who are afraid but want to visit or live in Christchurch? What do you have to say to them?
This was a premeditated attack. It was designed by somebody who came here from Australia to New Zealand, deliberately choosing a safe place to make a statement. This is, I guess, the police response has given me great confidence in terms of the security that is able to be provided. And, you know, at this time, I'm going to say that there will be a grief-stricken city. But we will come back from this, and we will continue our path of welcoming people from all nations, from all religions, from all cultures to our city. At every single citizenship ceremony that I run every month, I always say to people, because I know that some people have to give up their citizenship of birth to become a citizen of New Zealand, and I always say, you give up nothing of the place where you were born. You don't give up your religion, your culture, your history, your language. You bring all of them with you. You nurture them in your children, and our community is strengthened by that diversity coming here. So we will welcome people to our city, always.
The person who is allegedly responsible for this, do we have any idea how long he was in Christchurch for?
No, that is a question I have asked, and I expect that you will ask that of the police.
Do we know where the other two people are from? Christchurch people?
No, that is also a question I've asked, and I'm sure you will ask that of police.
And police said this morning that they are not certain that the threat to cancer in Christchurch is over, and there are still question marks as to whether there are other people who may be linked to what happened are still out in the community. Do you have any more information on that? So can you offer any assurance to people?
Well, I don't have any further information other than what you have. I would make the point, though, that this is a national threat that has been asserted in terms of the status of our risk as a country going from low to high, you know, and that is the first time in our nation's history that has occurred. So we have to all take this seriously in that regard.
Moving forward, what steps and outcomes would you like to see taken in response to this, ideally?
Sorry?
Moving forward, what steps and outcomes would you like to see achieved in response to this?
I do want the Muslim community in Christchurch and Muslim communities throughout New Zealand to understand that they are very much a part of our community, and that an attack on them is an attack on us. It is an attack on Christchurch, it's an attack on New Zealand, and I want us to come together and embrace the diversity that our city now represents. And I want us not to be divided by what has happened, because hate divides. I want us to be united, and that's what love and compassion and kindness are all about. I believe that we can, because of our previous experience, recover from this, and we can recover in a way that we'll be stronger than we were before. But the strength of the ties between the people who live in the communities, that is going to be the measure of the recovery.
And are you having a briefing from police imminently? We understand that you haven't had the opportunity for a briefing this morning.
No, I haven't had a briefing yet.
Yeah. Is there a briefing from police? I mean, presumably, obviously, you will be in contact with them throughout the day. Do you have a...
Yeah, well, as I said, the Prime Minister's in a briefing in Wellington at the moment, and I'm expecting to be talking to her after that. I'm sure, I haven't looked at my schedule for the day ahead yet, and but there will be briefings included within it.
Much of Christchurch was on lockdown yesterday, and people were advised to stay off the streets, stay at home. What is the scenario and landscape for the city today?
Sorry, what is the...
What's the landscape for the city today? Much of the city was on lockdown yesterday.
Yes.
How are things going to be today for the city?
Well, I can speak about the council building. So the recreation and sport facilities will be open as usual, and the libraries will open from 12 noon.
Okay, anyone got anything else? Or? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
No worries.
Thank you.
Well done, Lianne.
Yeah.
Good day.
How are you all feeling?
Tired?
I know.
Bet you
It's
were.
just, yeah. You were going away, weren't you?
Thank you very much. Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was meant to be, yeah.
Oops.